Well, good afternoon and welcome to the principal's office. I am Principal Edward Gordon, and I am so glad you have tuned in for this weekly broadcast where we will be interviewing educational stakeholders who have made a significant impact for themselves, for others, and with others in education. In the book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, written by Dr. John C. Maxwell, he talks about the law of modeling. The law of modeling states it's hard to improve when you have no one but yourself to follow. A good mentor is a worthy example, available, has proven experience, possesses wisdom, provides friendship, provides support, and makes a difference in people's lives. We believe there are many outstanding leaders in this world, and weekly we want to highlight those leaders, leaders that will help us provide models of excellence for others. Today, I am grateful to have another special guest who is making a significant impact in his school community, Principal Matt Weber. Good afternoon, Principal Weber.
Good afternoon, Principal Gordon. Thanks for having me.
Uh, Pleasure. I'm glad that you are willing to be on the show this afternoon. So I would like to start off with a brief introduction of our guest today. Principal Matt Weber has been in education for the past 25 years. He always considers himself a classroom teacher and still finds it surprising how he ended up as an administrator. He has taught secondary education in several public schools and districts in North New Jersey and has been a college professor for about a decade. Matt has been the proud principal of Harrison High School in Hudson County, New Jersey since 2014. Help me welcome again to the show, Principal Matt Weber. So, Principal Weber, the author of Robert McKee states, storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. Matt, what is your story?
That's a very broad question. So mainly as it said in the bio, I really came to administration almost not by accident, but as a secondary part of my journey, because I really was primarily interested in being a classroom teacher. I have a degree in comparative literature. Poetry is kind of my thing, and I had decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach students to love literature as much as I do. And I did that for many years and loved every minute of it. And eventually I got asked to be a supervisor of a language arts department. And then I was a supervisor of ESL. And slowly but surely, I kind of moved through the ranks in administration, and here I am as the principal of an urban high school. So it's been a really interesting journey. It's certainly not been a straight shot at all, and I think in many ways my style has really been informed by my circuitous journey, if you will. So. Yeah, but that's really my basic story. I was very involved in publishing for a while. I was a literary agent and then an editor in New York City for a while, and that was really a fun time in my life. And again, I think that really informs what I do as a principal as well.
Very good, very good. So let's talk a little bit more about your love for literature and your studies at Columbia University in New York City. Just share with the audience a little bit more about how you have this passion around literature.
Sure. Well, I'd always been an avid reader as a young person, and when it came time to decide what I wanted to do as a grown-up, I decided, I really just would like to make a living doing what I love, which is talking about literature and helping others to appreciate the arts as much as I do. And so, I had an outstanding education at Columbia and really got the opportunity to work with a lot of, well-known poets and artists, and then in the publishing world as well, to work with really inspiring creative people like Mario Puzo and J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. And that was really a lot of fun and let me realize that my contribution to the world was probably not going to be in the arts, so to speak, but rather in education and getting others to realize the richness that literature and fine arts holds, even for our modern world, which in so many ways seems to ignore the arts as a vital contribution to society. So, so I went into I wanted to be a college professor teaching literature, and that was worked out eventually, way down the road. But I got into teaching at the secondary level in public school, really as a way to kind of pay the bills and be able to continue my own education. And I discovered that I loved that so much that it was what I wanted to do. That was my calling. That's what I wanted to do with my life. So here I am.
Very good, very good. So just staying along with the theme of reading and literature, what is the most recent book that you have read, and how is that book impacting your actions today?
Oh boy. Well, I found that I read less and less fiction and creative writing as I get older, unfortunately, because of my job. So the most recent book that I've read was actually not literature at all, but was Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, which is a book that I found very inspiring because it really lines up almost exactly with my own kind of ideologies about education and leadership. And so that's the most recent book that I've read. I'm sad to say it's not literary in nature, but it was definitely all the same a very inspiring read.
Very good, very good. Now, I do understand my background. I started off as a music teacher and high school band director. And when I became a school administrator, I practiced less. and right now, if you ask me to pick up a trombone, my lips will probably fall off. But I definitely understand it. So let's talk about what excites you, what wakes you up in the morning, and what gets you excited every day.
I would say being able to walk into our high school and really just feel a sense of camaraderie, a sense of family with everyone who's here, that really keeps me going. And I've that's something that takes effort in order to build that culture in a school. But that's what keeps me going. No matter how difficult my day is, no matter how busy it is, no matter how many phone calls I get, and how many times my secretary has to yell at me to keep me on track. I find that camaraderie, that feeling of family within my building is what keeps me going every day. And that goes from, staff members, faculty, students, everybody really has this feeling of like togetherness and we're all in this together. We're all going to support one another. We got each other's back. And that's something very special that I've not found in other places where I've worked. And that's why I'm, glad to call Harrison High School home.
Very nice. Very good. So let's think back in terms of when you were named principal of Harrison High School back in 2014. And I know that there's other administrators that are making this transition over the next couple of months, starting new contracts and so forth in July 1st. But what advice would you share with them coming into a new setting? It doesn't have to be a particular high school or it could be elementary or middle school, but what advice will you share with a principal that's just stepping into a new district or a new school at this period of time?
I would say to make sure that new administrators, if you're taking on a new principalship, make sure you're going into it for the right reasons. It's nice to be at the top of the food chain and to be the boss, but really what being a leader and being a principal is all about is really sharing in your victories. And so what I like to tell my staff is, when everything goes right, we did it together. When everything goes wrong, it's my fault. And somebody who's going into the upper level administration really needs to be comfortable with that idea that, it's not all about you, it's about your school and your students and the school community, and you have to be okay with the sense of sharing that leadership with others, and make sure that you're comfortable with the idea that when something doesn't go right, the only person to blame is the principal. And that's in many ways, it really kind of sets you free, because it lets you know that when you're planning for, implementing things, and you're figuring out your leadership style, that it's a source of inspiration to know that there's other people that are going to work with you to lead to your successes, but you have to be willing to share those successes with others. And it's not always easy to say, well, when everything doesn't go as planned, I'm okay taking the rap for that, because things will not always go right. And you have to be willing as the principal to have a thick skin and say, yep, that wasn't what we had hoped for. We're going to figure out how to make it better, and we're going to re-implement it, and it's going to be better next time.
Yeah. Well, one thing that the very last statement that you mentioned, I mean, you gave a lot of good advice to an aspiring principal, someone's making a transition within a district, but you talked about the very last statements about the fact that you're going to put together some plans and implement some things, and so not everything is going to work out right. Okay. But taking the time to assess what happened, and going back in there and trying it again. And that is definitely some good advice for all leaders and also administrators, that not everything is going to work out the way you drew it up on the plan, but be able to go back and analyze it and jump back in there is definitely words of wisdom. So thank you very much for sharing that with the audience.
Sure.
So let's talk a little.
Just to add to that, Edward, it is the idea that I think the one mistake that I see young administrators making is a lack of willingness to allow things to be messy at the beginning. No matter how well implemented something is, it's going to be messy in the beginning, and you have to be willing to kind of suck it up and allow that to happen, so that whatever you are implementing can be successful ultimately. Nothing is a success overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say, and that is definitely true. So if you're going to put together a program and implement something really, some massive change for your school community, it's going to take a couple of years to make it right. And if you want to reassess, obviously, at the every 6 months, every year, whatever, but you can't say, well, at the end of the year that didn't go okay, I need to change it. You need to, we're going to scrap that. No, in order for true change to happen, it takes years and years. So having that endurance, I guess you say, to allow something to go on for 2 or 3 years to actually see how successful it could be, that takes I'd say a good healthy dose of self-confidence to be able to say, we're committed for 3 years, we're going to see this through, and it's going to be a success at the end. We're going to make sure of that, and not just go back to the drawing board after a year when things are a little bit rocky.
Yes, and that's good advice and wisdom you're talking about, in terms of the fact of seeing a program for a period of time, 3 years at least, to see and look at the data and the growth. Many school leaders and also districts are wasting a lot of money every year trying to put in a new program and purchase new curriculum, and not giving it time to develop and provide the proper supports for the teachers to actually implement it in the classroom, listening to the teachers about what are the challenges and providing support, and going back into a year after year and allow that progress to actually take place. So once again, that was some good information to be able to share with school leaders, not only in the building level, but also at the superintendent level as well. So thank you.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about mentorship and also coaching. For you, do you have a mentor or a coach that is in your life and impacting your career at this period of time?
Absolutely. Yep. I have the person who was my principal, who hired me as an assistant principal, who I still talk to regularly, is definitely somebody that I go to for advice, and I look to as my mentor. Even though I no longer work in that district, and I was only under his tutelage for a short time, we stay in touch, and it's hard to believe, but it's been almost 8 years now since I've actually worked with him in the same building, and he's still the man that I go to when I have a question.
Yeah, well, that's good. And we talked about at the very beginning of the show about some of those characteristics of a good mentor and a role model: accessible, someone that you can develop that relationship with, even though it's been some time since you actually worked under that mentor directly. You're still able to give them a call today, and that is this evidence of a great relationship, and that's definitely what was needed. And I just encourage everyone to have that, a mentor and a coach in their life. As we talked about earlier, sometimes you want to be a principal and you're at the top, okay, but you need somebody to definitely talk to be able, that's farther along on the journey than you are, to be able to help you out in terms of making some decisions, how you're approaching the staff, how you're providing some effective programming for the students that you're serving. So having a mentor and a coach is definitely valuable.
Yeah, accessibility is key. When anyone who goes into the administrative game needs to be a people person. You have to be somebody who likes to get out there and to talk and kind of hang out with your stakeholders, for lack of a better term. And I've had special guests in my school, and different consultants and vendors and such, that they've actually said to me in confidence, I go into a lot of schools and I don't even know who the principal is. I've never met them. They walk around, and there's all sorts of other people, not the principal, who they're dealing with, and the principal's like nowhere to be found. And I cannot for the life of me understand that mentality, though I do know that it's prevalent in the administrative world. But for me, being the leader of a building is all about being out there, being with the people who I'm supposed to be leading. And if somebody comes into my building, I want to be part of that. I don't want to sit in my office and bark orders. I want to be part of the day-to-day happenings of the school. I want to be in the classrooms with the students, and be in the hallways, and be in the faculty meetings, and be working with the teachers during PLCs. All of those things are important to me. And I think too often administrators get tied up doing the minutia, the little things that take up all the time, and you lose sight of the big picture, what's really important. And what's really important for administrators, in my book, is being a people person, being out there, being accessible to the people who are part of your school community, letting parents and faculty and students know, listen, come in and talk to me in the main office. If you have a question, let me know. I get emails all day long from students, and I'm very glad to answer them back, and they get an immediate response, and that probably encourages them to email me in the future as well. And that's what it's all about, being that people person, being gregarious, and being out there and available to people, not just to your mentees, but people, all people within your school community is so important.
Very good. Yes, being a people person and understanding your stakeholders, your students, your teachers, other administrators, your parents, other support staff within in the building, your community partners, being available, being visible, allow them to know who you are, and also that you're approachable and you are developing those relationships with them. So very good advice for administrators, are also aspiring administrators, about what it takes to really be effective and to have that lasting change within the organization. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit more about Harrison High School. What are some things that over the time that you've been at the school leader, the principal, some achievements of your students, of your staff, that you would like to share with the audience, some of the highlights?
Sure. Well, I was very fortunate that when I became principal at Harrison High School, the school was already a very successful institution. It was awarded a blue ribbon the year before I started, And so my predecessor was, the principal who made that happen. And so I really stepped into a school that was already well run and a district that was already being run thoughtfully and purposefully. So in those ways, it was fortunate that I joined the team in Harrison. And then I also say that also made it that much more difficult, because when you become the leader of a building that's a train wreck, anything you do is going to be an improvement. But when you walk into a building that's already doing really well, you have to really figure out what you're going to do to add to that greatness, to keep that momentum going. And so, I would say over the last 6 or 7 years, some of the things that I'm most proud of is really our commitment to solidifying our students' post-secondary plans while they're in high school, making sure that our students know what they're about and they understand where they're going and how to get there. So, one of my mantras is, plan to succeed. So I try and get my students to understand that from the time they set foot in the building as freshmen to the time they graduate as seniors, they're building their resume. They're moving themselves towards their ultimate goal. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of planning and a lot of, concerted effort on their part. But whatever they decide that they're going to set their mind to, they can accomplish with the help of all of the adults in the building who are here to support them. And so really positioning our students to be successful, post high school is something that I'm proud of what we've accomplished over the last 5 or 6 years. We've been successful in getting our students into a lot of elite schools. We get tons and tons of scholarship money for our students on a regular basis. And every single student that leaves Harrison High School has a plan for the day after graduation. Every single student. And that is awesome. And that's not something that happens in all high schools. I think I'm sure much more difficult to make that happen in a larger high school. My high school is only about 700 students. So the graduating class every year is around 160, 170 students. And we can actually meet with every single kid and make sure that they know what they're going to do literally the day after graduation. All right, what are you doing tomorrow after you hang up your graduation regalia and high school is behind you? What are you going to do tomorrow? How are you going to hit the ground running? And every single kid for all the time that I've been here has been able to have that plan for what they're going to do after they graduate from Harrison High School. And that's something that I think makes all the difference in the world. And I tell the kids, it doesn't matter what your plan is. I will support whatever plan you come up with. And the adults in the building are going to help you actually, realize that plan. But you have to have one. And if you just tell me, on June 1st, Mr. Weber, I don't know what I'm doing after graduation. Well, for the next 3 weeks, you and I are going to be together every day until you figure it out, so we can have a plan for you for when you leave here. I as much as, our students, our alums definitely come back and they remain members of our school community. They're kind of off flying on their own after they're out of here, but we want to make sure that we catapult them into the future as best as we can. And so, we've set up a lot of, I'd say a lot of rigorous coursework. We've added a lot of courses, like dozens and dozens of courses since I've gotten here. We have a culinary academy and a STEM academy. We have a gifted and talented program that we're starting next year. And we have a early college program, which we've been running now for about 5 years. And so the students, tons and tons of AP classes, lots of opportunities for our students is really what it's about. And for me, it's about providing as many opportunities for our students as possible so that they can build their resume and ultimately be successful when they leave here.
Very good, very good. And it's just amazing to hear all the success of Harrison High School and what you have been able to do, and also add all of the new courses. And also, one thing that resonated with me is the fact that all your graduates have a plan the day they graduate. And that's something that all high school leaders and guidance departments should definitely implement, because it's not just about getting them through the time while they're in your building, but how are you preparing them when they leave that building and forward? So thank you for modeling that for the students and the community in Harrison, as well as everyone that's listening to this broadcast this afternoon. So let's talk a little bit more about leading during this pandemic. What are some lessons learned during this last year, uh, as all the schools were going through this time of COVID-19 and this pandemic?
Oh man, we've learned so much, and it really has been, as much as the pandemic has obviously been a heart wrenching experience for everyone. It's also been uh, uplifting, I guess you'd say, because it's taught me, and I think a lot of the people that I work with, that the way that we've done things for a gazillion years and we always accept it as the way things had to be, they don't have to be that way. And so the experience of the last year has taught us that education has kind of been stagnant, I'd say, for a long time. The education world has been stagnant, and this pandemic has shaken us out of that complacency and taught us that so many unbelievable things are possible, things that we never thought we'd ever see in public education, in secondary ed, are actually not only possible but work really well. We've had, as much as I don't like not seeing the students every day, we've had a lot of students who have been very, very successful with virtual learning. I mean, like, very successful. And that's taught me that, the way we've done things for so long in secondary education, which is all based on largely things like seat time and, a very structured progression through a particular curriculum, is not the only way to go. And so in Harrison High School, we've started to look at other types of educational models that allow students to demonstrate mastery and to chart their own educational journey in a way that is very untraditional in terms of what we've always accepted as, public high school education in the past. So I would hope that for the education world as a whole, that the pandemic has taught us that we don't need to go back to the way things were. I hear people saying all day long, I can't wait till we go back to, can't wait till things are back to normal. And yeah, I share in that desire to have some normalcy again, but I don't want to go back to the way things were. I want to take the things that in the past worked well and keep them. And then everything else that didn't work well, I want to throw out and replace with the new stuff that we've learned since the pandemic has begun. And I really think we're positioned in this time in history to make those huge leaps forward in education, as long as, like I said, we're careful that we don't just return to the way things were, with a sigh of relief. Oh, the pandemic is over, we can return to normal. No, we need to continue the momentum that the pandemic has forced us to start, and allow some of those massive sweeping changes to happen in education. And I truly believe that we're going in that direction, and it's going to happen again, as long as people don't stand in the way of that progress.
Yes, very good. I work with several principals and also those that are aspiring principals, and we talk about vision and mission. And some things that this for us to all think about: if our the way that we're thinking about schools, our vision and mission are still the same after this pandemic, there's something that we should be concerned about.
Right.
There's a lot of, like you said, eye-opening experiences about the way that we were doing school and educating and providing for our students, and even for our teachers in the past. I believe that this has definitely forced us to make some changes in the right direction. So thank you very much for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit more about professional development. And what would you consider to be a professional development experience that has been beneficial for you in your career that you would definitely recommend an aspiring or current school principal to definitely to partake in?
Sure. Well, I always find the NJPSA seminars and workshops to be hugely informative and super well run and very organized. So I would encourage all administrators to definitely take advantage of the resources that NJPSA has to offer. And I've even the NJPSA conference every year. Obviously, we didn't have one this past year, but definitely go to the conferences and talk to your colleagues and take advantage of those opportunities to be in the classroom setting with your peers. And there are a lot of I get probably 75 emails a day with different offerings of professional development. And by and large, those are all profit-making schemes by unscrupulous business people to make a quick buck from the education world. And most of them are not worth our time. But the professional development that's provided by professional organizations, like NJPSA, is definitely worthwhile, and I would encourage people to take advantage of those.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I just want to share with the audience. I know that there's a lot of good advice and wisdom that's been shared with the audience this afternoon, and you can continue to follow the work of Principal Matt Weber as well as Harrison High School by going and following them on Twitter at the HHS _Blue Tide, and that's on Twitter. And they are also can be followed on Instagram as well at NJ _Harrison High School. So I'll keep this on the screen so everyone can write it down. But I'm just so glad to hear what you were able to accomplish thus far at Harrison High School and also the work that you're doing. And as we close out this time together, again, the audience consists of some students, teachers, aspiring school leaders, current principals, superintendents. What is one piece of advice that you would like to leave with the audience today as we close out our conversation this afternoon?
I would say to keep looking for things that you find inspiring and look for ways to keep your energy levels high. The day-to-day grind of being in the education world is sometimes a little much. It's taxing, and you have to look for ways to constantly, fill your bucket, as they say. Look for things that inspire you to continue having that energy that's needed to really be an influential difference. It takes a great deal of energy and commitment and passion to be a world-class educator and a world-class leader. And as individuals, we need to constantly look for those things that re-energize us and re-inspire us to continue the work that we do. It's not always easy. Like I said earlier, I think all teachers and administrators certainly get bogged down in the day-to-day minutia, and just kind of clearing space for those moments of inspiration is key to maintaining your energy. Nobody wants to, just like no students want to enter a classroom and see, a sourpuss teacher and see somebody has low energy and doesn't enjoy what they're doing. Same thing when people walk into a building. Nobody wants to see, the leadership of the building, dragging their feet and not being happy and energized to be in the school, doing their thing every day. So maintaining that energy is super crucial. And everyone has a different formula for that. Some people really, they get up at 4 a.m. and they go play basketball, or they get up at 4 a.m. and they go to the gym. For me, it's finding those things that inspire me, finding, a great poem or a great book or a great lesson in the classroom that remind me why I do what I do. And if you don't look for those moments of inspiration, you'll never maintain that energy level that you need to be great.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you very much, Principal Matt Weber, for being on the show today. And thank you for modeling excellence for your school community. And for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in to the principal's office. Join us next Friday at 12 p.m. for another episode with another amazing educator that has done things significantly for themselves, for others, and with others. Have a great afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks, Edward.
Thank you.